History doesn't scream. It waits in broken walls, in scorched stone, in words written by men who survived long enough to warn us. What you're about to hear isn't legend. It's not myth. It's not exaggerated fear. These are 4 ancient terrors that truly happened, recorded by eyewitnesses, preserved by historians, and confirmed by what remains beneath the earth. First, we travel to 219 BCE, to the Iberian Peninsula. The city of Saguntum did not fall quickly. That was the cruelty of it. For 8 long months, Hannibal's army surrounded the city and simply waited. There was no mercy, no urgency, only cold, methodical patience. Inside the walls, food disappeared first. Then, hope followed. The Roman historian Livy describes families selling priceless heirlooms for a handful of grain that never came. People resorted to boiling leather, then to eating things no person should ever have to consider. When the walls finally broke, there was no chaos, only method. Men were dragged from their homes and executed in public spaces. Women were taken alive. Ancient accounts describe ritual killings carried out by allied forces, framed as offerings after a long-awaited victory. The city was burnt to the ground. Its people were erased from existence. When Rome finally arrived, Saguntum was already dead. Not conquered, consumed. The silence that greeted them was a testament to Hannibal's patience, and a warning of the darkness that was coming for Rome itself. Our second story takes us to the year 09 AD, deep within the Teutoburg forest, in what is now Germany. 3 entire Roman legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, were led by a man they trusted completely, Arminius, a Germanic chieftain who had been raised in Rome and served in its army. But his loyalty was a lie. Arminius was leading them into a perfectly designed trap. The forest was dense, the terrain muddy and difficult. A violent storm broke out, turning the path into a swamp. That's when the attack came. German warriors, hidden on all sides, unleashed a storm of javelins from the high ground. The legions, stretched out over miles, couldn't form their famous defensive formations. It was a slaughterhouse. For 3 days, the Romans fought and died, ambushed at every turn. Verus, seeing the utter hopelessness of his situation, fell on his own sword. The historian Tacitus tells us the aftermath was even more horrifying. The captured Romans were subjected to brutal sacrificial rites. Their heads were nailed to trees, their bodies left to rot in the forest. The eagles of the legions, their sacred standards, were lost. The defeat was so total, so humiliating, that Emperor Augustus reportedly wandered his palace for months, banging his head against the walls, crying. Next, we journey to the city of Jerusalem in 70 AD. The First Jewish-Roman War had reached its devastating climax. The Roman general Titus, who would later become emperor, laid siege to the city. But this was more than a military campaign. It was an act of annihilation. The historian Josephus, who was there, wrote a harrowing account. As the siege tightened, a terrible famine gripped Jerusalem. The desperation was unimaginable. People fought over scraps of food, even chewing on their own belts and sandals. Josephus records stories of madness born from starvation, including a woman who cooked and ate her own child. When the Roman soldiers finally breached the last wall, they were met not with resistance, but with the ghostly silence of a city starved to death. Titus had ordered the Great Temple, the heart of Judaism, to be spared. But in the frenzy of the final assault, a soldier threw a torch into the holy building. The fire spread uncontrollably, consuming the magnificent structure. The Romans then systematically tore the city apart, stone by stone, leaving almost nothing standing. Hundreds of thousands were killed, and nearly 100,000 more were sold into slavery. Jerusalem was left a smoldering ruin, a scar on the face of history. Finally, we look at a terror that wasn't from war, but from nature itself. In 536 AD, the world went dark. A mysterious, thick fog or dust veil spread across the northern hemisphere, blocking out the sun for over a year. The Byzantine historian Procopius wrote, leading to what is now known as the Late Antique Little Ice Age. Crops failed everywhere, from Ireland to China. This triggered a catastrophic famine, the worst in over 1,000 years. People starved to death by the millions. Society began to break down. The plague followed soon after, sweeping through the weakened, malnourished populations with terrifying speed. It wasn't an army or a king that brought this horror, but the earth itself, reminding humanity of its fragility. These stories aren't meant just to frighten us. They are a reminder. History is not a collection of dates and names. It's a record of human experience in all its glory and its terror. The echoes of Saguntum, the Teutoburg forests, Jerusalem, and the year without a sun are still with us, whispering from the past about what can happen when patience becomes cruelty, when trust is betrayed, when conflict turns to annihilation, and when the world we take for granted suddenly changes. History isn't just a collection of dates and kings. It's a record of human choices, and some of those choices were designed to break the human spirit. Let's travel back to the 9th century BCE, to the heart of the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians' violence wasn't a dirty secret. It was a public spectacle, a tool of statecraft. Imagine walking into the palace at Nineveh. The walls aren't decorated with beautiful art. They're covered in stone reliefs, painstakingly carved to show real events. You'd see prisoners being flayed alive, their skin peeled away strip by strip. You'd see bodies impaled on stakes, lining the roads as a warning. These weren't just threats. They were historical records, boasts of brutality. Kings like Ashur-Nasirpal II didn't shy away from describing their methods. His inscriptions read like a manual of horror. He wrote about piling heads into pyramids at the gates of conquered cities, of burning boys and girls in fires, of leaving a trail of devastation so complete that the memory alone would enforce his rule. Fear was the foundation of the empire. Terror was the language of governance. The psychological impact was immense. Entire cities would surrender the moment the Assyrian army appeared on the horizon. They didn't need to fight a battle. The stories that preceded them did the fighting. The Assyrians understood that you don't need loyalty when you can command absolute, paralyzing fear. They ruled not through administration, but through trauma, and for a time, it was terrifyingly effective. Now, let's move forward a few centuries to 430 BCE, to the Golden Age of Athens. The city was a beacon of democracy, philosophy, and art, locked in a desperate struggle with Sparta, the Peloponnesian War. The Athenians put their faith in their massive walls, believing they could outlast any siege. But the greatest threat wasn't outside the walls, it was already inside. As refugees from the surrounding countryside poured into the overcrowded city, they brought something with them, something invisible and deadly, a plague. The historian Thucydides, who caught the disease and survived, gives us a chilling, first-hand account. This wasn't a common illness. He described a sickness that felt like fire burning from the inside out. People were consumed by an unquenchable thirst, yet water brought no relief. Fevers raged so high that many threw themselves into cisterns, desperate for a moment of coolness before they died. The disease didn't just attack the body, it shattered the mind. Law and order, the very fabric of Athenian society, disintegrated. Doctors were among the first to die, then the priests, whose prayers went unanswered. People stopped caring for the sick and the dying, fearing infection. Funeral rites, sacred to the Greeks, were abandoned. Bodies were left to rot in the streets or piled onto other families' funeral pyres. Thucydides wrote that people, seeing the rich and poor die alike, decided to live only for the moment, indulging in every pleasure because law and honor seemed meaningless. God-fearing men and criminals behaved the same way, because there was no future to fear or hope for. In the end, the plague killed nearly a third of Athens' population, including its great leader Pericles. The city was spiritually and demographically broken. It survived the war, but it never fully regained the confidence and vitality it once had. The plague was a biological event, but its devastating impact was magnified by human choices: the decision to crowd the city, the breakdown of social responsibility, the descent into despair. These two stories, one of deliberate human cruelty and the other of societal collapse in the face of an invisible enemy, teach us a vital lesson. The Assyrians weaponized physical suffering. The plague in Athens revealed how quickly a society can unravel when its foundations of trust and order are eluded. These are not just distant, morbid stories. They are warnings, etched in stone and ink. They show us that civilizations don't always fall to foreign armies or mythical monsters. Sometimes, they collapse from within, when people learn to use suffering as a tool, or when fear causes us to abandon our humanity. History remembers these terrors not just to shock us, but to remind us of the fragility of civilization and the eternal struggle between survival and our better selves. Thank you for watching. If you believe that remembering the unfiltered truths of history is essential, please subscribe and share this video. Together, we can ensure these powerful lessons are never forgotten.